What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Okay, this is we're heading into the month of September, and we know that the month of September is a big month in the sport of boxing. It, along with May Cinco de Mayo or May 5th week, around May 5th weekend, and the second week of September tend to be the biggest in the United States. Tend to be the biggest dates in boxing. So we have Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin happening in September 15th to be specific, at the T-Mobile Arena. And so it's time to start talking about it and thinking about it a little bit. And there was an article that came out where Canelo Alvarez and Canelo Alvarez trainer expressed some thoughts that I have and I concur with about Gennady Golovkin and Abel Sanchez, and some things that are constantly being said about Gennady Golovkin by Abel Sanchez and by Tom Loeffler, and HBO allows it to go on. But to me, I think from the outside looking in, is an insult. Or if I was Mexican, and I'm not, but if I was Mexican, I might consider that to be an insult to Mexican fighters. And by that I mean what he talks about, fighting Mexican style. Now, before I get into that, I want to thank everybody that's watching the video. Thanking you for taking your time out to listen to me talk about this subject. And also, thank you to guys for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And also, thank you to everybody that attends the live streams. I really do appreciate it. And we really have very, very good conversations. And finally, thank you to everybody that supports the channel by watching the videos. And I put ads in the videos because the purpose of these videos is to raise money for youth sports programs. Just moved to a new city, so we're going to be looking to find some programs to get involved with here. Also, thank you to the people in the ads and the videos. That's what they're there for. That's how the videos generate revenue. And also, thank you to the Venmo and people that donate through Venmo and through the super chats during the live stream. Super chat and live stream is really important for that, in that regard. And I thank you guys very much for doing so. Now, let me get into what Canelo Alvarez said specifically, and his trainer said, and then I'll talk about it, because I think that it's important. But before I do that, let me say this. In the United States, there are two sections of the population in the United States that are very avid boxing fans. And those are Spanish-speaking Mexican fight fans, because, of course, you know that Mexico borders the United States. A large portion of the United States used to be Mexican territory, and there's a very large population of Mexicans in America, in California, all throughout the country, but very heavily, a very large number in the state of Texas, California, Arizona, that, southwest section of the United States, right above the state of the country of Mexico. So that particular portion of the United States is very, very avid boxing fans. I believe over 60% of Mexicans in America who say they're sports fans are fans of boxing, and over 50% of those Mexicans in America who are boxing fans consider themselves to be avid boxing fans. So and the fighters there have been many, many great Mexican fighters. You've had fighters like Marco Antonio Barrera, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Marco Antonio Barrera. You can just go on and on. Oscar De La Hoya. Today, right now we also have Mikey Garcia, David Benavidez. I could go on for a very long time, but there are a lot of different styles. Canelo Alvarez, obviously. There's a lot of different, very, very good Mexican fighters. And I've always appreciated them. They're one of the most and they don't have a distinct, they have a distinct culture, boxing culture, I do believe, but not necessarily a style that one person fits. I can look at Oscar De La Hoya and see that Oscar De La Hoya did not fight like Eric Morales, right? And Luis Nery does not fight the same way that Ramirez fights, the 168 pounder Ramirez. So, it's Zerto Ramirez. So there's just, so when a guy from Kazakhstan starts spouting out about how he's fighting in the Mexican style, that is nothing to me but a marketing ploy to try to get that very large section of fight fans to watch his fights and support him. So with that background, let me go forward. Gonzalez and Sanchez have called Canelo's fighting style into question, claiming that he refused to fight Mexican style when they collided in September of 2017. This is coming from a Boxing Scene article. The Mexican style isn't like that, Canelo told the Los Angeles Times. So they're actually quoting the Los Angeles Times. I don't know where they get that about how the Mexican style is go forward and to punch and get punched. That's not Mexican style. All of the opponents that he knocked out have stayed on the ropes or in front of him. That's what he wants, to have a bag right there to knock out. Later, I learned that against a high-level opponent, you have to adapt to whatever style and show that you're superior in whatever style. That's the truth. Canelo's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, took things a step further and said it was insulting to Mexican boxers to say Golovkin fights in a Mexican style. Quoting Reynoso, "Look, to start with, this man doesn't have a Mexican school. He doesn't have a school. We see Abel's fighters every time they come out of a fight. They look like they look as if they've been run over by a trailer. Golovkin throws his punches wide like this. He doesn't know how to throw them. He doesn't know how to stop them. He takes all of the punches that are thrown at him. He doesn't know how to counterpunch. He doesn't know how to feint. It's the worst form of stupidity, what they presume the Mexican school to be. I saw that young man. To say that a young man has a Mexican style is an insult to the Mexican boxer. To say that young man, who is Gennady Golovkin, has a Mexican style is an insult to the Mexican boxer." And I've been saying that for a while, but that just flat out pandering to to a base of Mexican fight fans, to me, it's always been ridiculous. And it's an attempt by Gennady Golovkin to develop a fan base, which honestly, he doesn't have. Gennady Golovkin, and I'm not trying to take away from his ability. He's a successful champion. He's been a middleweight champion for, I believe this will be his 9th title defense. It's nowhere near his 20th title defense, like HBO tries to represent and people, trying to hold out these fake records. But it's kind of like the conversation you have, other conversations we have in boxing when we try to look at what's really going on in the ring and what promoters are using to market a fighter. And in this case, you try to use that Mexican style as a way to pander to Mexican fight fans. And it's about time that it stops. And I agree 100% with Canelo Alvarez. And Mexican fighters are consistently put out great fighters. And they put out fighters that don't take a ton of shots. Certainly you have your Antonio Margaritos, right, who just walk straight forward, getting punched in the face, waiting for an opportunity to knock you out. But just like you have Marco Antonio, you have those type of guys. You have guys like Johnny Gonzalez. And Johnny Gonzalez was a tall, and I hope that I got the right Gonzalez, but Johnny Gonzalez was a guy that was tall, long, boxer, fought on the outside. He was a good fighter with fast hands that used his feet. And really, I think that you could go through more about Mexican fighters that have more styles than that. One of the best Mexican fighters in recent years was Marco Antonio Barrera. And Marco Antonio Barrera, later in his career, after he had lost to Junior Jones, started fighting in a manner where he was a boxer. He counterpunched. He used feints. He set up shots. He used excellent footwork. And was a terrific fighter. So, Abel Sanchez, aside from that issues, Abel Sanchez also was just a fighter. He just is trying. I don't think very highly of what I've seen out of Abel Sanchez fighters. Now, I'm not a trainer, and I always got to pay respect and say that, hey, man, I know that Abel Sanchez knows a lot about what's going on in the boxing ring. Obviously, he does. But if you listen to what Abel Sanchez says, and Abel Sanchez, I don't think is even if he knew the things that Canelo Alvarez is talking about, feigning, counterpunching, defending shots, right? I don't think Abel Sanchez would share that with fighters if he did know it. If he does know it, he's not sharing, because what he's trying to do is is feed his fighters, right? Just feed them. Feed her, like horse, like they're like the horse meat in a grinder or something. Just put him out there, let him take as much punches as possible, make the fights exciting, so the crowd can scream and say, ooh, rock 'em, sock 'em, robots. And 15 fights later, the guy's going to be done. But so what? There'll be another fighter I can put in there. It's not like Abel Sanchez is the one taking the shot. So, not a big fan of Abel Sanchez. I'm really happy that Canelo Alvarez said what he said. I know that there's whole nother conversation will come up about Canelo Alvarez and whether or not Canelo Alvarez was on performance enhancing drugs and how that's going to affect the fight and all that. That's a conversation for a different video. But one thing I know for sure, that I believe about Canelo Alvarez is, I know about Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is definitely Mexican. He's definitely a Mexican fighter. He's more Mexican than Gennady Golovkin is. And I believe that because I've seen what his brothers look like and what his mother looks like. He kind of looks like an Irish guy, but hey, sometimes, Keith Thurman don't necessarily look like a black dude, but he is one, right? But Canelo Alvarez, but the most important thing about that is Canelo Alvarez can box. Canelo Alvarez slips punches incredibly well. He feints. He sets fighters up. He can fight coming forward. He can fight on the back foot. He can bang. He can box with you and win on points. He can slug. He can do all of that stuff. He's a well-rounded fighter. Just like Marco Antonio Barrera was a well-rounded fighter, like Juan Manuel Marquez is a well-rounded fighter. They're not just punching bags, So anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.